Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. I'm Jaime Rodriguez, and with me is Brian Peak, my colleague. We're both games evangelists at Microsoft, and we're going to spend the next 30 minutes talking about how to have one game that goes across PC, phone, tablets, and Xbox. We call them universal games, so that's a term you're going to see me use throughout as we go. Just so I know who we have in the room, show of hands, how many of you are actually writing mobile games? Okay. How about PC games? All right, lots of you. And then console? Anybody here done console? Well, for those of you that raised your hand once, which was pretty much everybody, I have pretty good news. With Windows 10, you're actually writing games across all of them. So you will write your game once, and you'll be able to take your mobile game and maybe run it on a console or maybe run it on a Windows 10 device, like a tablet device, even on the HoloLens device that you saw at the keynote. So with Windows 10, we have one OS, and then we have one platform that you can use to target all of that family of devices that Windows is in. So we give you one platform and one store. You submit it once in one place, and it goes into everywhere that you want it to go to. So we've streamlined your development quite a bit. Over the next 25 minutes, we're going to spend a couple minutes talking about the opportunity, just so you know where we are on the business side, how you're going to make some money, and then we're going to dive into the platform, and then we'll have a little bit of wrap-up real quick. So with that, let's talk about how you're going to make money, because that's the one thing that I'm sure you all care most about. If you know Windows, Windows is still a very relevant platform for PC gamers. There's still a lot of people out there that play games, and most of my friends, like the majority of them, actually play games on PC. That's still a very preferred platform. And we've introduced our Windows Store a couple years ago with Windows 8, and we've done well, but I think we left a lot of people that didn't upgrade fast enough. So we had a lot of people that were running Windows 7, some people were running Windows XP back then, and we launched Windows 8, and not everybody moved as fast as we could. So one of the things that we want to do with Windows 10 is we want to bring all those users back onto Windows 10 as soon as possible, and what we're doing there is we're giving everybody who has Windows 7 or Windows 8 or Windows Phone 8 a free upgrade onto Windows 10. That's the way, if they upgrade within the first year. So that's the way we're going to get users up into the platform so that you have as many users as you can immediately as you target Windows 10. For context, we launched like literally Windows 10 with RTM probably 40 days ago. The first 30 days, we already announced numbers. 75 million people upgraded and installed to Windows 10 in the first 30 days. That's a pretty big number. That's probably close to the whole market that you have with, say, Mac OS. So we're doing pretty good. We're making sure that we're also bringing more mobile payments and more local payments into more markets, such that all of these people that upgrade also have a way to pay, because not everybody has credit cards in some of the markets that Windows is big in. So we want to make sure we have local payments so you're making as much money as you can. The next thing that we're also fixing with the platform that we knew we needed to work on for game developers was making sure that we drove discovery. We drove people to the store to discover your game. And we've added a lot of features around discovery, engagement, and monetization. We have 35 minutes, so I'm not going to dive deep into these. What we have is tomorrow, Kevin Ashley and Sanjeev Dwivedi have a session right here in the same room at 4:30, and they're going to spend the whole 30 minutes talking to you about how you're going to monetize and engage your users with Windows 10. We've added a lot of features onto even the shell where you actually will be able to drive users to the store and push discovery across. So it's something we're definitely first of mind. We want to make sure as we launch Windows 10, for you to be successful, we want to make sure we bring you lots of users and we bring them to the store to discover your game. And you're going to see that throughout the talk today, and you'll see a lot more of that tomorrow. With that, though, this is the technical session, so we want to dive into the platform and tell you about what the platform looks like. So what are you going to do? You're going to need Windows 10. So you do need to be running Windows 10. If you're running Windows 7 or 8, don't worry, it's a free upgrade, so you'll just be able to upgrade it for free. And then you're going to need Unity 5.2, which you've obviously seen in the keynote, and you saw the keynote that Unity 5.2 now by default includes Visual Studio 2015. Visual Studio is free to you, so you'll be able to just run Visual Studio from within your Unity install, and that's all you need to be able to target our platform. So Brian, we have a Windows 8 game. Why don't you show them how you target the platform with Windows 10?
So we wrote a Windows 8 game as a tutorial a while ago just to show hobbyists and students how to write games for Unity using Windows. So just to give you some context, I will run the game first so you can see what it is. And again, it's very simple. Cheesy little Pac-Man style game here. Simplicity is key when you're trying to teach students and hobbyists how games work. So pretty simple game. Blue monster goes around, eats things. Red monster chases you. As I said, this was a Windows 8 game that we then needed to bring to Windows 10. So let's take a look at what we did for that. So standard Unity project here. Nothing crazy at all. If you go into your build settings, under the Windows Store platform on the left-hand side, previously you would see the Windows Phone and Windows 8 and 8.1 SDK types. There's a new one in here now called Universal 10. That's what's going to build out your Windows Universal app for Windows 10. Second thing you'll see is a UAP build type, and from here you can choose XAML or Direct3D. XAML is great if you want to use the XAML UI stuff that exists in Windows to do an overlay on top of your game. Otherwise, Direct3D is the same, just without the XAML. No reason to choose one over the other, but if you're using XAML, make sure you keep that one selected. Hit build from here. As usual, this will export out to a Visual Studio solution. While that's building, let's take a look at a couple other things. This is the actual thing that's actually building right now. I've already got it open. It's just compiling the Unity assembly in the background. But this is the solution that is built that you would then build to create your packages to submit to the store. Two major differences here. You'll see this is now a universal Windows solution. Again, that's how you make universal apps. And with Windows 10, .NET has been NuGetified. If anyone's ever used NuGet, it's kind of been componentized now. So as you build your game, you get your own local copy of .NET built into your game project. So as the framework gets updated to newer versions, your game's never affected because you have your own local copy that's downloaded at the time when you build. Going to the scripts project, as you saw in the keynote, Visual Studio is now the default editor in Windows for Unity. Visual Studio Tools for Unity is installed along with that. You can do debugging, variable inspection, everything you would come to expect from Visual Studio, and a couple of cool things where you can press Control-Shift-M and implement a mono behavior, so you don't need to remember the signature for what on awake looks like. You just tap it, hit enter, and it builds the prototype. You fill it in. So that's really all it takes just to get your game to Windows 10, but let's talk a little bit about tailoring it to Windows 10 and the Windows 10 platform.
Yep. Can we swap? Yep. So the common question that we get, especially from people coming to PC or console, everybody's worried, well, if I just want to come on platforms, does that mean I get a subset? And reality is no. What we've done with the platform is we actually converged all of our APIs into one. So we've actually looked at every one, at phone, tablet, and console, and we said, hey, what API makes sense? For example, on console, we had the gamepad controller, which was ahead of everybody else, and we brought that into the platform. On phone, we had, for example, Notification Center, and we brought that onto Windows, and we're bringing some of that into console. So when you think about the platform, you're getting the best out of everything Windows and Microsoft had before into one unified API. And here's kind of a good way to think about it. If you think about our platform, like right there where it says Universal Platform APIs, that's about 98% of the APIs that we have in the platform. There is still ways to tailor for specific devices. For example, some things don't make sense outside of phone. So we make sure that we have these little things we call extensions and SDKs, and that's where we add that extra functionality. You saw the HoloLens person. HoloLens has a couple extra gestures. So there's a little tiny bit of extra functionality, and you do that through extensions and SDKs, and you're going to see how to use those in a minute. So it's very, very simple. For context, here's, for example, our whole extension SDK for Windows Phone. You'll see there's very little that is not in the share APIs. The APIs that are here are things about making calls or device management, things that only make sense for phone, that we were like, okay, we cannot include those into the core platform. Again, on HoloLens, you might see those two extra gestures, and you'll see very little extra stuff. So we make sure that all the bulk of the platform is actually in the one API, the APIs that are shared. We make sure that you can tailor your experience across. When you think about tailoring your experience and coming onto Windows 10, one of the things that you've noticed if you've seen our desktops or if you've seen Windows 10 is that on Windows Phone is kind of a full screen. All your applications are full screen. We had done that for Windows 8. We tried that for Windows 8, and everybody came back and told us, no, we love the desktop. Windows 10 should be going back to the desktop mode. So Windows 10 actually does that. We have multiple windows throughout the desktop, so your game needs to be able to run with window in support. Whether you're bringing it from mobile or from Windows 8, you'll need to at least handle kind of entering and exiting full screen, focus changes so that you can pause your game and stop your gameplay when the user goes into a different apps. And then you can set your window in preference. Some people like to launch full screen. Some people like to just let it run the way they are. So Brian, why don't you show us how to use those APIs from within Unity?
Sure. So for our game, we wanted to be able to toggle in and out of full screen by pressing the F11 key. It's kind of a standard way to do it. You could also use Alt-Enter. There's a special API in Windows 10 for doing that, but Unity wraps that one for you. So if you're familiar with the full screen property, you set that to true or false, your Windows 10 game goes in and out of full screen as you would expect. Nothing is really different there. In terms of handling things like the back button, this works just like Android. You get the key code.escape, which is how Android handles their back button. So all that code's going to come over. There's no change you need to make there. In terms of focus, you use the on-application pause method, which lives off of every mono behavior. That'll pass you a true or false as to whether or not you've gained focus or lost focus. Handle what's appropriate there. For us, it's, if we're paused, we set our game state to paused. If we're not paused, we set it back to playing. So you'll turn off sound, you'll stop processing, whatever makes sense for your game, you'll do when the app loses focus and gains focus. In terms of setting a window size, in our exported project, the one that we would then go to build to submit to the store, every project has an app.xaml.cs, and this is the first chunk of code that gets run in a Windows 10 application. So in here, by default, you'll get this initialize Unity method, and before the call to window.current.activate, you can define how you want your window to look. So every application in Windows 10 has an application view, and you get it by calling get for current view off of the application view. So this try enter full screen mode, this is what Unity wraps with that full screen property. If you wanted to call it manually the Windows 10 way, that's the method you would call to enter full screen mode. You can also set preferred minimum size. So I can say, well, I really don't want my user to drag my window smaller than 1280 by 720 because my game's going to look like crap if that happens. So you can set the preferred minimum size. You can set a preferred launch size. So when the game starts up, you can say, I always want my game to start up at 1600 by 900 because that's my game's sweet spot. So you can specify that property. You can also specify your preferred launch windowing mode. This is using the preferred launch size, which is what we just set. You can also set that to auto, have the operating system manage it, or set it to full screen. So it will start up full screen right at the start. And that's pretty much all you need to do in order to handle windowing. So.
Yep. So that's a few minor changes just to tweak your game, and most of those, if you have standard Unity APIs, you'll be able to use those. Did you switch?
Oh, did I not? Sorry.
On input, actually, we wanted to bring it up because people always ask, but the reality is we didn't find anything that we could tell you that's different on input. Unity is actually handling everything. Your input manager is already taking care of keyboard and mouse. We also have the same API for sensors. So Unity is actually doing all of the work that we could think about that you would need to do for input. The one thing that we thought about, because we did want to give you an example, was that sometimes the one thing that we do want to detect is when a user is running on touch. Remember, you have one universal binary that you're shipping. So that binary is going to go to phone, and maybe it's going to go into a tablet, and some of those will have touch. So Brian, why don't you show us how to do touch from within the platform?
Sure. So for our game, we wanted to set it up that if we're on Windows Mobile or on a phone device, touch is enabled. So how do we detect if we're running on mobile? Well, there's this isAPI contract present method, and we pass in the name of a contract. By passing in windows.phone.phone contract, that'll tell us if that contract exists. If it does, we know we're running on a phone. It's just that simple. You'll see that this is wrapped in a Unity preprocessor here, WSA 10_0. Just like all the other Unity preprocessors, this is the one that says this is a Windows 10 app, so you can conditionally compile code in or out depending on what platform you're building for. You also see NetFX Core. So if you're building against .NET Core, you can write your Windows 10 code right in here. Unity knows how to handle it, how to compile it. You don't need to write a plugin or a bridge or anything else. You can just wedge your Windows 10 API calls straight into your Unity game. So this just determines if we're on phone, returns true or false. And one of the questions we always get, as Jaime alluded to, was, am I on a device that supports touch? And if I am, is the user actually using touch or are they using mouse? So there's a new property you can check, which is called user interaction mode, which will return to you touch or mouse. So in the case that the user is interacting with our application in touch, we can now set that to true and determine that, the user's using touch, so let's display a little virtual thumbstick on the screen instead of, using keyboard or gamepad input. So with the two of those things combined, we have a use joystick property. If we're Windows Mobile or we're in touch mode, we enable that virtual joystick. So I've got the game running on phone here, and assuming my projection works, I can start our game. And if I can tap start here, you'll see a little thumb pad over here on the right-hand side of the screen. So now I can, on Windows Phone, drag my little guy around by using the thumb pad. And you didn't see that in the Windows Desktop version because I wasn't interacting. Even though this is a touchscreen machine, I wasn't interacting with the game in a touch manner. So that returned false. That's the basics of input right there.
So again, that's some of the changes that you have to make. We want to also highlight some of the new APIs, and for that, it would be good to share the context on one of the things that we think is super important for gaming in Windows 10. One of the things that we're doing is we're bringing Xbox onto PC. We're doing a lot of work from the Microsoft standpoint to bring the Xbox experience onto the PC. One of the things we have is something we call the Xbox app, and this app is available for Windows 10 and for Windows Phone. You get it, when you update to Windows 10, it automatically gets installed, so everybody's going to have it. And this app brings a few things that are really great for you as a game developer onto the platform. First of all, we bring a social graph. So as you can see here, I can go in there, find my friends. I can message with them, chat with them throughout the day from my phone or from my PC without having to be in front of my console. That's a really great thing. Another thing that we're doing is we're adding discovery onto the app. You can see right here, there's a recently played games. And for example, right there, Candy Crush is not a console game. It's actually only on Windows 10 and Windows Phone. But because Brian was playing it earlier, when we got that screenshot, it actually highlights there as recently played. So I can go in there and discover PC games. So if I click on that game right there, I'll go directly into the store and one click away from just installing the app. So it's very, very seamless for people to discover games. We also have featured apps that you see in that same category. So we're making sure that we're bringing all of these discovery mechanisms to the Xbox app and through the platform. You'll see similar ones on the platform. And then the last thing that we're doing to bring that Xbox experience onto the PC is we're bringing the ability to play and share. So for example, with Windows 10 games, you will be able to do cross-device play. I can play against Brian. Brian can be on his Xbox One console, and I can be on my Windows 10 device, and we can play games and play against each other if the game is Xbox Live enabled and has cross-device play. We also have the ability to stream games from my Xbox onto my PC. So for example, at home, if I get home and I'm tired, I want to play, and my wife wants to watch a TV, I don't have to anymore fight for the TV and flip a coin to see who's getting it. She can keep the TV. I turn on my Xbox and I go into my office, and then the game streamed onto my PC, and I plug my controller and I play the game seamless, just as if I was playing on the console. And then the last thing that we're adding onto Windows 10 is this thing we call a game bar. If you're familiar with Xbox One, we have game DVR, which is like, hey, let's record the last 30 seconds of your gameplay. We have the exact same feature on Windows 10. So when you're playing on Windows 10, any game that you play, regardless of whether it's universal or not, you'll be able to record, and then the Xbox app you can automatically share. So we're bringing all these Xbox experience onto the PC. And of course, if we want to bring all these Xbox experience, the one thing that we need is people like you to write apps and use those APIs so you can do that cross-device plays. So we're also enabling the Xbox Live Services SDK and making it available to all Windows 10 and Windows Phone developers. And you get the full SDK. This is not a subset. You get identity, all the data platform, you get multiplayer, everything that you need in order to write an Xbox Live game, just like the ones you see on the console, is available to Windows 10 developers. And the API is easy to use. Ryan can show you how to do it.
Yeah, I'll just go through just a couple of quick examples of parts of the API. So the first thing you need to do in your app is sign in the user. It's a single line call. You create an Xbox Live user object. You call sign in async. That's going to grab the user that's logged into Windows, or it'll prompt the user if they want to use a different account. It'll log them in. You take that user and you wrap it in an Xbox Live context object, and you can think of this as your bridge. That's how you're going to talk to every service that lives in Xbox Live. So we're going to grab the profile service, and we're going to call get user profile. That's going to return to us the gamer tag, the gamer score, their gamer pick, all the public information about that user for you to display or use in your application. From there, we can go in and grab achievements. So again, using that context, there's an achievement service that hangs off of it. Get achievements for title ID async. That'll return every achievement that's associated with that title, whether or not that user has unlocked them. So you can gray them out in your UI if you want to display them that way. But this will return the name, the description, the score, the picture that's associated with it, a bunch of other information. But you can see single line call to pull that information back along with just whatever parameters you want for which achievements to return. And the same with leaderboards. It's another single line call. Once you have that context, you call leaderboard service.getLeaderboard async. You pass in the name of your leaderboard. We have one called score leaderboard that returns to you a series of rows, which is just every name that is in your leaderboard. There's certain filters you can use if you only want to display leaderboards against your friends or the global leaderboard and whatnot. But literally a single line of code pulls back that data. And I'll jump back over to our app here and show you what that looks like in game. So we sign in, we call the profile service, we get the gamer tag and the gamer pick displayed up in the top right corner. If we click on achievements, that's going to go out and call the achievement service, and depending on how fast or slow the network is, it'll load those 5 images. They're 1920 by 1080 images. But you see the background, the name, description, and point value. And the same with leaderboards. Call into the leaderboard service, and 5 people have played this game, and those are their gamer tags, rank, and score.
Yep.
So pretty simple to use.
Yep. And you didn't see the sign-in because it's integrated systems. So you get the choice to say, always use my Windows sign-in, like my same Microsoft account that I use, or you can sign in with different sign-in to every game. That's why you didn't see it, because we had tested it before for the network. So.
And once you say yes, you're signed in forever.
Yep. So that's where we are with regards to the SDK. There's a lot more information. There's a session out there because this is an API that everyone wants to learn more about. We have a really great session that we did at GDC. Everything is still current, and it kind of gets you on point of record for understanding the SDK a little bit better. Now, the SDK is being gradually rolled out. This is something we hadn't done before. It's something that we're still learning as we go. So one of the things that we've done is with the SDK is, if you're familiar with ID at Xbox, we used to have a program for indies that wanted to do console development, and ID at Xbox was the name of the program, and we help people with consoles and all the information they needed to use. So we're extending these programs to make it available to all Windows developers that are targeting universal apps. So now if you just write a mobile app, or if you just write a tablet app, that's okay. You can still join the ID at Xbox and get all the benefits that it has. The program is free, and you get, for example, access to SDKs and hardware. You get access to the Xbox Live SDKs. You get guidance on how to use them. You get free software, like free copies of Unity and some license of Visual Studio and other things. And then you get this really, really solid marketing and promotion machine that they've been building on. So there's a lot of benefits for you to sign up to ID at Xbox. And again, you can do it even though you're no longer writing console games. So the bar is different. It's a lot lower than it was in the past, where we had a very high bar for entering console games. We still want to do only the best games, but we want to make sure that everybody has a shot, and we want to make sure that all these games are coming to all the device family of Windows, not just the console. So that's where we're at with the SDK. Moving on towards kind of the last things that you have to do. We've talked about changing your game. We've talked about taking advantage of some new features. Again, you can go to Kevin's sessions for monetization. I want to talk about what it takes for you to package it and ship your application. The first thing you'll notice is we have, with Unity games, you'll see a new technology called .NET Native. What we're doing with Unity games, or any C# application, any .NET applications, is we are actually compiling straight from C# to all the way to native code with shipping optimized code. So you're shipping native code going forward. And that's what we call .NET Native. This is great for you because it's going to improve your startup. It's going to improve your memory management. There's still a GC, so there's still memory to be dealt with regards to GC. But the code is better and a little bit leaner and faster. The caveat with this is that because we're doing this is actually going to introduce a little bit of more compile time for you. So when you're developing your game, as long as you're running debug, everything will be the exact same. You'll develop fast, you'll debug, and you'll do all your thing. But when you go in there and compile for release, from master, which is the configuration that we submit to the store from Unity Games, you'll see that, it took 20 minutes to compile the game. And that's because we're going in there and doing some heavy optimization, some, all the converting onto native code. So you'll see a little bit of overhead there. And, we want to make sure you saw it or you didn't think it was something broken because we're still working on optimizing that. It's only when you compile master, so it's not something you do as much. It won't affect your debugging, so it'll be seamless for you. But it's something we wanted to highlight. The next thing that I wanted to tell you and explain is make this whole concept of universal apps. What is a universal app, and what are the decisions you have to make? There's only 3 decisions that I thought you had to make. The first one is you had to have an app identity, or pick your strategy. When you ship a universal app and it goes into phone, Windows, and console, you can say, hey, I want to have a shared identity. That means if Brian goes in there and buys a durable in the phone, that durable is available to him on the PC. That's a shared identity. That's what we want most universal apps to be, is the best experience for our gamers. So we want that. We want you to consider using that. But you don't have to. You can say, hey, phone and tablet are different. I want people to pay, $249 for each, and that's okay. You can choose your identity. So just because it's universal and it's one code base doesn't mean you have to have one app. You can actually have different identities in there if you want. The next thing that you have is you have to choose your target platforms, which is going to be you can say in there, hey, I want to be universal. That means it goes everywhere that our store when you submit it. It can go everywhere. Or you can say, no, I want a mobile game only, or I want a desktop game only, or I want a combination of these. And through the platform, through the manifest that you submit, you can just tell us what you want. And it's very seamless. We don't make the choice for you. You're still in control. And the last thing that you do with Universal App is you choose your hardware requirements when you submit it to the store. When you go into the developer portal, you can say, hey, this is a PC game, so don't let anybody who doesn't have a keyboard install it, or don't let anybody, or this is a mobile game and we want everybody who has touch to install it, so don't let it install in a machine that doesn't have a keyboard, that doesn't have touch. So you can control your hardware, you get the best experience for your user, and you make sure you don't get any bad ratings by making sure you submit the right hardware configuration. That's it for what we wanted to show you. There's limited time, so we want you to go back and remember Windows 10 is very simple. It's one operating system, one platform, and one store, and we're bringing in the users in for you. So you'll be able to have a really great experience, a streamlined development experience with great monetization and a large, massive audience of users that you'll be able to reach with Windows 10 with all the stuff that we're doing. If you want to try it, we have an offer at Unite. Right here on the third floor, we actually have a room with Microsoft experts. There's devices, there's Windows, they give you the software there. And if you bring your game, just like you saw Brian and I poured ours, where we just exported from build, and you get down to where you get the first screen, you actually get a free phone, so you can take it with you for testing. That way you can finish your port of your application. The phone is the one you need, because most of you will have a copy of Windows already, or most of you will have a device. And then if you don't get it to port, you still get a chance to win Surfaces or free Unity Pro licenses, because they have raffles there every day. So if you have any questions about what we presented here, or if you want to go try it, feel free to meet us right there at room 305. And again, don't forget about tomorrow's sessions on monetization, because I didn't cover that, and there's a lot of exciting stuff there. And with that, I think we have probably like a minute for questions, so we can start walking outside and take questions here or take them at the door. And again, we're at 305, so feel free to reach us there if you want. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
If anybody has questions, you can come to the mic, and we'll address them while the next person sets up, because I think the next person is setting up very soon.
So
Yep.
the login screen that you did not show, is there a login screen that's branded or anything Microsoft-wise that comes with it? Or
Yeah, so we give you, so that's a great question, and you all heard it, right? So the login screen is actually, it's standard Microsoft account login. So it's what we call a standard UI for us. Actually, with the whole Xbox Live SDK, there's several experiences where we give you what we call a title callable UI, which is a UI that's already standard. For example, for session matching, that's something where people don't want to write the UI. Right. And we give you standard UI that you can use for within your app. It's all part of the SDK. So it's a consistent experience, so the user can trust it. And it's something where in the right places you can do a little bit of your branding. And in some cases you can replace it. Designing is not one you can replace, though. So.
One more question. I've got a Windows 8 application and actually come out of Unity, and I'm trying to use touch with it. Mm-hmm. A single finger is detected as like mouse input, but multi-touch, the touch object doesn't seem to work with out of Unity. Is there something I need to enable to make multi-touch actually work with Unity and Windows 8?
No, it should work by default. If you come upstairs, I can look at it, or if you show it to me outside, I can look at it. For default, you nail it exactly. What Unity does is they make it seamless for people to go back and forth. So they actually map, and that's something the platform does. They map mouse into touch so that people don't have to do the translation for them. Sure. There is a setting for within Unity that you can go for multi-touch, so I can look and see if you have that set, but it should all work by default.
All right. Well, I'll look for the setting. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll get out of there.